All right, welcome. We are going to continue working with importing data into R, working with the same data frame students that we imported in the prior video. So we imported this data frame or this comma separated file that is found at this location using the read underscore CSV file. There were some issues with NAs being coded in weird ways that we fixed already. So all of our NAs are coded correctly, but the issue we have, at least when we imported it using the reader package and the read underscore CSV, was that our file names were not ideal. We had two of them, student ID and full name, that have a space in them. And so when they're displayed on screen, notice those are inside of single quotes. So these sorts of names, when we have spaces in them, these are examples of non-syntactic names, and they're not following the right syntax. They have spaces. And so R has certain rules for how variables should be named. They don't want spaces for good reason. Spaces are usually reserved for other things in code. There were other column names like favorite food, meal plan, and age. You can argue those could be named better. We'll name them better, but at least there's nothing wrong with their syntax. They haven't violated any of the rules in R. So I want to just focus on these first two column names that are going to cause problems if we don't fix them in our code. And you can kind of illustrate that issue if I were to try and summarize the data in the full name variable in students, and I run this code cell, I get an error because of this space. It's looking for a variable that is named full, and there is none in the student's data frame. So it stopped looking for the variable after I put this space here. And it has no idea what to do with the name that comes after the space. So when you have variables that have spaces in them, every time you refer to them in R, you would need to put them inside of these quotes. And that's just extra stuff to type. You're bound to make a mistake and get some errors in your code. So this would work over here. We don't get much of a summary because it's a character variable. But now you can see why having spaces in a column name is problematic. So there are different ways that we can handle renaming columns. So I could just import things like we did over here. And then I can look at the column names after the import and then say, I don't like these column names. I want to rename them. And since we're working with a tibble and we're in the tidyverse, we might as well use some other packages in the tidyverse. So recall from earlier, we used the rename function in the dplyr package as one way that we could rename columns. So with the rename function, I'm going to take students, I'm going to pipe it into this function. You could just as well have entered students as the first argument if you didn't want to pipe it. And then I enter new column name equals old column name. And these old column names I need to put inside of those quotes or else it won't read them correctly. So I want to change student space ID with some caps to all lowercase student underscore ID. Full space name, we're going to change to full underscore name with all lowercase letters. And when I change this, I also need to put that inside of quotes because that variable has a space. Favorite food, let me change that to using the snake case naming convention, which says separate words with underscores instead of dots. So I'm going to call this favorite underscore food. Meal plan, I'm going to change to meal underscore plan so it follows snake case. Age, I'm going to rename to all lowercase letters age. And clearly that is going to work. So in some sense, there's nothing new we need to learn. We already know how to change the names of columns in a data frame or a tibble such as this. So we just fixed all of the column names in our import. So we first imported using read CSV up here. And then after we looked at the column names, we had some changes we wanted to make. We could do that with a separate package and a separate function, the rename function. Another way of doing this, there is a nice package which is called the janitor package. This janitor package, it's not part of the tidyverse, but it still kind of works nicely within that workflow. So this is a package which has not been installed or loaded in this session. So janitor is not already installed in Colab. So every time I start a new Colab session, I need to install the janitor package like I'm doing right now. And then I need to load that package into the session with the library command. And now we can use functions inside of the janitor package. And the function that I want to use is called the clean names function. So what I can do again is I can first do the read CSV command, which reads this in. And I just reading this again because I want to go back to the original column names that we didn't like. And rather than have to enter the names one by one with the rename function, the janitor package has this clean names function. So here I use the pipe above. I could also have just said clean names and put students inside of there, and that would have done the same thing. So you don't have to use the pipe. I like emphasizing the pipe. So I'm going to use the pipe to input students into the clean names function and then print the result to the screen. And this cleaned up all of these names. It converted student ID to student underscore ID, full name, favorite food, meal plan, age. Were all converted to column names that follow the snake case naming convention. So that's a nice way to rename all of your columns all at once. So these are ways of renaming the columns outside of the import stage. But it's going to be really nice. What's nice with these import functions, read underscore CSV, as well as read.csv, is that they give us some flexibility to do the renaming during the import step. So that's what we'll talk about in the next video, is rather than import and rename, how could we do all of that inside of one function in one step? Okay, thank you.